Welcome to the Johnson County Cavalier Sports Report. I'm your host, Morgan Lamb, and joining me today I have head athletic trainer Bill Buese. Bill, thank you so much for stopping by today.
Hey, most welcome.
So you have been here for 31 years.
33 years.
33 years.
Yeah.
And you're headed for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your highlight moments that you've had here at the college?
Well, I was thinking about that a little bit, and I think one of my most interesting, it's not a lot of memory, but some memory, is that when I first got here, is I went to my desk and said, okay, now what do I do? I was well trained, but it was it's sort of like walking into a house that you don't know or whatever. It's okay, well, we're here. And then we went from there to the expansion of the athletic training facility in 2001. Which was just tremendous because the old one, the door that separates two sections, used to be the outside door on the north side of the building, and we'd have snow blowing in during the winter, coming in underneath the door. So the expansion was not only bigger but warmer. Mm-hmm. And then, all the championships we've won. Athletics here is excellent. I don't know if the people that are actually present sometimes don't know if they realize just how successful our athletics has been here. And so all the way from the national championships down to the conference championships, our teams win a lot, and that's always a highlight.
Mm-hmm. And so after being here for 33 years, now you probably have a typical day-to-day regimen. Coming in every single day, what does your day look like?
It varies a lot depending on the volume of athletes we have coming through. The fall is by far the busiest, and there's just a lot going on, all the sports at once. So in the clinic, it's just hand over fist taking care of athletes. It slows down some during the winter, but when it really like this spring is an unusually slow spring. I'm not exactly sure why. Things just seem to be kind of quieted down. One thing that's evolved over the years is the record keeping. In athletic training, we've caught up with the other healthcare professions. We come from a different culture than they do, and we spend a lot of time, my staff and I, at a keyboard. Mm.
So who all is included in your staff?
Well, Ben Edwinson has been here for 9 or 10 years. And then we have Roberta Keeler, who just joined us last year. I can't remember exactly what time. It was sort of the middle of the year. Mm-hmm. She works directly for Shawnee Mission Medical Center, but she's contracted with Johnson County, and we're basically her full job. Mm-hmm. They do an awesome job. Without them, I have people say to me, I don't know how you did it back when you were by yourself, and I don't know how I did it either. I have no clue.
Besides the record keeping changing in the past 33 years, what are some other big changes that you've seen?
I think a lot of the techniques we use and the equipment we use and so forth is in some ways a lot the same. The technology, the look and feel has improved somewhat. I think the most major approach thing has been the head injuries, the concussion situation, the way we just don't mess with those anymore. We used to send football players back into games just, with their bells rung, awful. And there's one particular incident, I won't go into it, it's a long story, but in college that I think back and say, oh my God, it just gives me goosebumps thinking about, we would never do that now. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's the way we take care of the head injuries. Mm-hmm. That's just radically different.
What is protocol for head injuries now?
Well, basically, if they show symptoms of a concussion, they are immediately out of the practice or the game, at least for today. You do a symptom inventory with them. You do some of the more familiar things, the balance and the eye tracking and all those kinds of things. Ask them to remember stuff. But if they have continued symptoms, you monitor them until they are symptom free. And then there's wherein they rest a lot. One thing that's changed in the last few years is cognitive rest, having accommodations made for them in the classroom as well as physically. Then there's a 5-day run-up once they're symptom-free, where you do increasingly more intense workouts and have them, basically at full bore at the 5th workout, as long as they didn't have any digressions. The neurocognitive testing, particularly the impact test, I've tried to take that myself. I don't know how you take it when you're not concussed. It's very, very difficult, very complicated, and that helps us a lot, especially whenever the athlete is to that point where you're going, I wonder if they're really okay. You will find out whenever you sit them down in front of the computer, particularly if they've had a baseline.
Wow. So what are some of the most common injuries that you deal with?
The most common thing tends to be, used to be like sprained ankles, but we are starting to see a lot more athletes come in with what we used to call overuse, and we now call it repetitive motion injuries. Baseball and softball players with shoulder and elbow problems. This year, I think we are on course to have 5 Tommy John elbow surgeries, and just every one of them has a history that goes back a while, because the athletes specialize early. They play primarily one sport all year long. They never have rest. I have ideas about how that started and where it has to go. But to keep it simple, the overuse injuries, particularly in the shoulder and the elbow, have become, I think, most prominent. Sore backs, and then it turns into everything else.
What are your thoughts, actually, going off of that, on just the single sport athletes playing all year round, traveling since the time that they're small kids?
It's not a good idea, because there is no rest, and it doesn't have to be, dead stop rest. It's what we, call active rest. If they play another sport, if they can remain active and do other activities. But the nonstop, there's this myth that's gotten up, is that you can, anybody can practice their way into a college scholarship, or anybody can practice their way into being a professional athlete. There were even a couple of books written by a couple of people that sort of even solidified that myth, and it just isn't true. You hear about Michael Jordan, shooting thousands of shots and not making his JV basketball team and all those kinds of things. But you know what? He was Michael Jordan. The moment he was born, he was Michael Jordan. And I don't think sometimes that people, give enough credit to just, God-given gifts. So basically, I think there is a movement in sports medicine and pediatrics, particularly, but in some other disciplines, to try to get people to back down on the year-round early specialization thing.
You work so closely with all of the athletes in every single team and coaches. What is the most rewarding part for you?
The most rewarding part is seeing athletes come back, and the appreciation that they show for what you've done for them. Seeing, running into athletes from past years, past decades. That's always a great, blast from the past. So, it's all the athletes. And then my student athletic trainers over the years, seeing them succeed and running into them later. It's a lot like being a teacher. My mom was a teacher, and she would always talk about, I ran into so-and-so in the grocery store from years and years back, and I know what she means.
So getting into the athletic training field, I'm sure you were a big sports fan growing up. What pushed you into this direction?
You know, it's kind of weird. I was not an avid sports fan, although I did play. I wasn't always glued to the TV set, whenever the games were on and things like that. Even now, I'm not as big, excuse me, even now I'm not as big as, you think a traditional sports fan as you might think. But the thing that really brought me to it was I got hurt a couple of times when I was in high school. Now this is 1970s, late 1970s, and there were maybe a couple of thousand athletic trainers around the country. Now there are more like 30,000, much more common, and I didn't even know what an athletic trainer was, but I was thinking to myself, boy, there's got to be somebody out there that knows what to do with these injuries. And once again, long story, won't go into now, but that's what led me to athletic training. I found out that there was such a thing, and I pursued it, and here I am.
33 years later.
33 years later. If you count college, close to 40.
Wow. So what are your plans for when you retire coming up here?
Well, it's a little bit fluid. The thing that I look forward to the most is just having a little more control over my life, being able to work or not work somewhat as I please. There are just tons of youth sports out there, which we were kind of talking about earlier. I'm going to do some per diem work. I will teach if I have an opportunity to teach. I'll fish, and I'm keeping my eyes open, and my mind open, and I don't know what adventure might be out there in terms of something I could do either as volunteer work or paid work or whatever. So, my mind's open, but I have some ideas.
Well, we finish every single show off with 5 just rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Off the top of your head, are you ready?
I think so.
All right. Favorite music group or musician?
Eric Clapton.
Okay. And who is your favorite professional sports team?
The Royals.
Yeah? Who is your favorite professional athlete?
Overall, I don't think that there have been basically 2 that I think have dominated their sport more than any others that I can think of. And one is Michael Jordan. There have been other tremendous basketball players, but I think he is among the best ever. And Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was an athlete. He could have played professional anything. And he was a tremendous athlete and a tremendous person.
What is your favorite sports-themed movie?
Gosh, I've seen some. Let's see. I think probably Bull Durham.
Okay. And what is your favorite motto or saying that you live by?
I try to live by do unto others as you'd have do unto you.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I try. Don't always succeed, but that's what I live by.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by today, and congratulations on your retirement.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. This has been your Johnson County Cavalier Sports Report. I'm Morgan Lamb, and I'll see you next time.